us in conversations this morning, as always, is Rhodas. Good morning, Rhodas.
Good morning, Kaide. Good morning to all our listeners. And shout out to the BCW movement. Broccoli, chicken, and water. We're
Okay.
coming in shredded this year. We're coming in real shredded this year. So good morning to everybody out there. Let's get it.
All right, guys. If you're out there and you want to be a part of our talk, as always, please reach out to us up on our WhatsApp platform 0809 and also we're streaming live on YouTube. It's youtube.com/smooth981fm Lagos. Don't forget, Business Express is brought to you by Interswitch.
Indeed, indeed. Shout out to Interswitch. Yeah, so look, the fuel situation, we've got some clarity after, let's say, Saturday, because I was going out to the movies on Saturday when I first saw the fuel lines. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, what's today? Wednesday? 4 days later, the regulator finally comes out and admits what This Day newspaper and other Nairametrics, Business Day, other private sector news organizations had already found through their own investigations, and that was that indeed there was contaminated fuel. They said high levels of methanol and sulfur or something in the fuel that was imported into the country. They finally put out a statement yesterday, and they this is, of course, let me see, what's the name of the regulator now? The Petroleum Industry Act has called for a new entity. Yeah, this is the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Apparently, President Buhari is very angry about this, and he's, according to this same newspaper, he is querying Mr. Farouk Ahmed, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the NMDPRA. So they've come out and admitted it now is.
Yeah, I'm glad that they mentioned a few people's names because someone has to be held responsible. I mean, we talked about this yesterday, and at least now we have a name. But how long is it going to last?
Yeah, but you see, this is the thing. If you go to a restaurant and you order some chicken and the chicken is contaminated, you're going to hold the restaurant responsible. Yeah, there's a regulator who is supposed to, the restaurant should have its own quality control within its own organization. Then you've got regulators who are supposed to inspect food that comes into these organizations before it's sold to people. So if you go to a restaurant and you get contaminated chicken and you get food poisoning and you go to the hospital, well, you're going to hold the restaurant responsible. But in this case, so the restaurant is going to now turn around and say, well, the regulator was supposed to be the one to check the chicken and make sure that the chicken wasn't contaminated. So you've got, you would hold anybody whose vehicle was damaged, or generator was damaged from bad fuel, will probably hold the fuel station where you purchased the fuel responsible. Yeah, they would then turn around, and because the NNPC is the sole importer of fuel, but they have this direct sale, direct purchase agreement where they've got a number of entities that import fuel on their behalf. So they, if the fuel station ends up turning around and saying, well, I didn't bring this fuel in, this was brought in by the NNPC or these other players on behalf of the NNPC, well, whatever, you brought the fuel in, they will turn around to the NNPC. NNPC will probably turn around and say, well, it's the midstream and downstream regulatory authority that was supposed to have been responsible for inspecting those fuel grades, and to see what happens. These kind of things, you gotta, folks should test out the legal ramifications and see what happens, because the buck still falls at the foot of the regulator. But is the regulator a front-facing entity? The front-facing entity is the NNPC, which, though, after the Petroleum Industry Act, is kind of a for-profit company. But then when you now think for the fact, but it's supposed to be, according to the Petroleum Industry Act, which was signed by President Buhari last August, but the PIA has kind of been suspended because of the fact that the federal government has done a 180-degree turn and is no longer removing subsidies. So, what do you do? So that's the interesting dynamic. But they were slow. I mean, you should have put out a statement since
2 days ago,
4 days ago, since the weekend. You should have put out a statement since Saturday or Sunday telling Nigerians what's causing these, well, not Nigerians, the Lagosians and is it Abuja
residents as well. So here's a funny thing. Yeah. Yesterday when I was going home, I was worried about buying petrol at one of the stations because I didn't even know which one to stay. There were so many, and I mean, the information out there was that some of these stations were selling bad petrol, so we didn't know which one to actually. Eventually, I just had, in good faith, I parked not too far away from Amotobelo, and then I use the one at Amotobelo, and then hopefully my car's not going to get damaged.
Well,
but my problem is for the folks who buy bad petrol, how can they hold these guys accountable?
get a lawyer. You get a lawyer and say, I mean, look, it's
I
a
wish it was that
long.
easy in
It's
Nigeria. It's a long
well,
process.
and look, see, this is the reason. If we switch from that to our conversation on real estate that we had about a week ago, that bill that passed second reading in Abuja, where they want monthly rent to be paid. The issue is the reason why landlords don't want to accept monthly rent is because of the long journey of chasing down a tenant who doesn't pay their rent. Before you go and get a lawyer to evict them from the apartment, you probably have to pay police officers to come and pay. Then you have to drag them to court. Come on, they say so. They rather just be like, hey, look, I don't want to go through all this headache. Just let me collect all my rent up front. That's the same. If you want to say you want to take a fuel station to court for selling you bad petrol, you can do it, but you're gonna have to have money to get a lawyer and then go through all. But the thing is this: see, life is not meant to be easy. I mean, if it was right, so we have to follow these processes in order to see them through to their logical conclusion. So look, anyway, I purchased fuel on Saturday or Sunday, and fingers crossed, knock on with this table wood, my vehicle hasn't acted funny since then. Because even me, I was scared. I mean, look, this is the thing that everybody now is scared. Now you're worried. You don't know whether to buy petrol or not. You say, okay, let me risk it. Maybe it makes people more healthy. Shout out again, BCW, broccoli, chicken, and water. Maybe people will start walking to work because they don't want to buy fuel or use public transport or something to protect their vehicles. But it causes confusion. It causes a disturbance in the public. We need our own refineries so we don't have to import bad petrol from anybody. You need to fix the refinery. Now, I know the refineries, they put down, they made a down payment of $140-something million, and the Port Harcourt refinery is supposed to be ready in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. But a new administration is coming in next year, so who knows whether that'll be completed. So if you had your own, anyway, the Dangote
refinery is going to be there. But then again, some have said that it's not supposed to be something the federal government is supposed to depend on, because it's straight up business for him, right? So he's going to be selling not just to Nigerians, but everyone all across the globe. So he's going to be it's refined here, but then it's not exactly for Nigerians. So
of course, but look, it's still going to be a game changer. The Dangote refinery is still going to be a welcome. It's 650,000 barrels per day, as opposed to the collective 450 or so of the dead refineries that the federal government owns. So it's still going to be, but we just, if you had your own refineries and you're refining your own petrol, you wouldn't have to bring any fuel in and then be causing this type of confusion. So I understand the presidency. I understand has queried Mr. Farouk, and we'll see what comes about that. But for anybody whose vehicle engine was suffered any damage, somebody's got to pay it.
Hold them accountable.
If you go to a restaurant and you get bad chicken, and you get the chicken puts you in a hospital.
All about this chicken this morning.
Well, that's the BCW. That is essentially, you have to have some recourse. If somebody has to pay those hospital bills for almost poisoning you. And so that's what has to happen. Whether or not any Nigerians will follow through, we'll see about that.
I've got a few messages here. This one here from Yinkabu says, can we also have Mr. Farouk's house address or vehicle plate number? Finally got fuel yesterday at 9 a.m. since 6 a.m. Ended up running generator in the name of work from home. I still insist that if you have a lingering littering charge in the pricing template, then you should have a testing lab on the vessel. Someone already told about this fuel since Monday last week, and just 2 days ago, they're just admitting it.
Yinka is in the oil and gas industry, so when he talks about littering charges and testing,
he knows what he's talking about.
He knows what he's talking about. So Yinka, thank you so much for that. Look, the Nigeria has an infrastructure issue, right? When you talk about, look at that.
We need systems in place for every sector, and that's majorly the difference between Nigeria and probably developed nations. Because we talk about how we have so much resources. I mean, not just
blessed
now.
We're blessed
with too much resources, but we don't have systems and the technical know-how plus education to manage all of this, and it's a big problem.
See, look at gas. Nigeria is top 10 for gas reserves, right? There's a crisis going on in Europe right now where Russia is threatening to invade Ukraine. The EU and all these other parts, the United States, they're trying to, tell Putin that if you do this, you're going to be in trouble. But Putin he's got Europe's in his hands, and he can squeeze at any time because Russia is the biggest supplier of gas to the European, well, the EU, the European continent. And I understand that the foreign minister of Germany is supposed to be visiting Egypt, either what's today, the 7th or the 8th. He's supposed to be visiting Egypt. She is, excuse me, supposed to be visiting Egypt on the 11th and 12th. Now they're saying they want to talk about diplomatic relations and blah blah blah, but people are saying that Germany is looking to other Egypt, I think it's Egypt, Morocco, some other North African countries that have proven gas reserves as a possible alternative to Russia. Now,
it should have been Nigeria.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Nigeria is all the way in Western Africa. The reason why you see a lot of people trying to risk their lives migrating across the sea to go from Morocco, Egypt into Europe is because of the proximity between North Africa and those European nations. So Egypt, Morocco are strategically placed to where they can, although they do not have the gas reserves of Russia. Russia is, those are the big boys. But still, the only reason why I'm going through all this is that, you have to be able to develop your blessings in order for it to be manifested so that you can export to other countries and make some money. So Nigeria's massive gas reserves, it's very capital intensive, but it's another example of one of the blessings we have that we are yet to fully gain, from. So it's back to your point. We have to develop these things. Will the next administration do that? We will
hope to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so got a few more messages. Don't forget, if you want to reach out to us, it's simple. Send your messages to 0809-444-0981. Matthew Afolabi comes in.
Good point. That is a good point. So we'll see. It's all these geopolitical matters, geopolitics, economics. We'll have to see how the whole thing plays out. But still, if there's an issue, this one that Germany could be looking to Egypt, Morocco. That just shows you how you can play a part if you have the resources that can bring you in export dollars.
Well, circling back into what we were discussing earlier, real quick though. So, how long do you think it's going to take before we see an end to, this fuel crisis that we have at the moment right now?
They are saying it's about 371 million liters that has been impacted. So the issue now is that there's a recall. They're telling NNPC has told fuel stations to stop selling until they're able to get out all that bad fuel that's out there. So it could take a while. I'm not sure. I haven't heard what the timelines are. But since they've already, the reason why we've seen all these queues is because they've stopped selling. So you want to hope that within a reasonable time frame, maybe this week, I don't know, they'll probably be able to ring fence the bad fuel and get it out of the system, but hopefully.
Ian Kabul comes back to say the main vessel that brings in petrol can't berth at Apapa because of the vessel draft. Why? Our dear Apapa is not deep enough thanks to incompetence. Now, so smaller vessels go to transload, hence the littering charges we pay for.
So further the distance, I guess more charges. So, the NARTO, NARTO, the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners. You just remember this one they were talking about charges. You guys talking about charges. I understand that they are threatening to stop haulage. That is, their tankers are the ones that move fuel from the depots to the fuel stations. Because get this is very ironic. The tankers run on diesel, right? And diesel now is about 430 per liter, right? And so the I think, is it bridging charges? Yeah, diesel is unregulated. There's no diesel for subsidy. So because if you're a tanker driver who moves fuel from the depots to the fuel stations, your costs when you go to fill up your tanker is high because of diesel, but the government doesn't pay you by, I think it's freight charges. The government, that's capped, it's like fixed, and they don't get paid. They get paid in arrears.
Okay.
So they're saying that, look, government has to increase how much they're paid. If not, they'll just stop moving around. So that's another issue on the horizon. If you see, that's what happens when you can only move fuel by road. 97% of movement of goods in Nigeria is by road. Unfortunately, if you had rail and other options, you wouldn't be in this situation, but here we are.
Final message. This one's from Tosin. Tosin says, good morning. Well, for me, Buhari is to be blamed. Isn't he the Minister of Petroleum. Mr. Farouk shouldn't take the blame alone.
That's a good point.
Well, that's a good one. Well, Rodas, thank you so much. Always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Kade. Thank you to all our listeners for the messages. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right, Lagos. There's more to come in a few more minutes. It's going to be time for Freshly Pressed 981. So please stay with us.
Brought to you by